What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. On Friday, one of my subscribers, Andrew, he DM'd me, and I'll put the DM up. And you see, he asked me to retell a story that I told years ago. And I'm going to do that because not a lot of my subscribers actually go back in the catalog. Which is unfortunate because a lot of people say my best videos were the ones I did in the past. And people want me to redo the ones that were in the shop where, the machines were so noisy. I may do that. I probably will. But let me get to Ron. So Ron, we were in Adseg, New Folsom, 1996. And we had been back there about 4 or 5 months, probably about 5 months when the incident occurred, right? So what happened, so the whites and the southerners go to yard together, and then the blacks, northerners, and others, they go to yard together, right? So Ron had been on our yard group with us for those 4 or 5 months. Ron was cool, but you could tell Ron was not playing with a full deck. Ron was a J-Cat, what they refer to as a J-Cat. He had got into it with the staff on C Yard and tried to bite the staff's thumb off or something like that. I remember it has something to do with him biting a staff's, I don't know if it was a cop, I don't know if it was free staff, I don't remember at this point, but I remember he tried to bite his thumb off. And he was always respectful on the yard, but you could tell, like, this dude is a loose cannon. But see, that's up to the woods. That's up to the whites on the yard, whether they feel that one of theirs that's like that is a potential to be a problem for them or to kick something off, right? But like I said, everything was good. Wow. In September of 96, the huge riot jumped off in New Folsom B Yard, right? And so they slammed us down in Adseg. We were on lockdown for a little while until they were trying to figure out everything, whatever, right? Some people, they can't handle 24-hour lockdowns. Mentally, they can't do it. They need to see the sun. They need fresh air. They need interactions with people. And apparently, Ron was one of those people. Because one day, we had a beautiful CO. She used to work in our unit. Man, body for days, and she used to be really cool with a lot of the southerners, right? Well, she's picking up trash. She's picking up trays and trash, right? And then locking the food ports in the door. Well, when she gets to Ron's door, Ron starts disrespecting her, right? But he did it the wrong way. Like, whatever issue he had with her, that's, you talk to the cop as a cop, right? However you want to disrespect that cop. But he brought up her ethnicity. She was Mexican, right? And he's screaming out racial slurs at her. And at one point, he even screamed out KKK, right? So when that happened, immediately kites get to flowing around, right? We got to get this dude. Had he disrespected her as a woman? Had he disrespected her as a cop? That's nobody's business. But the fact that he was using racial slurs, that affects everybody in that ethnicity, right? So I think it took like 3 weeks or so, maybe a month, to get where we knew we were going to get yard again, right? And so during that time, everyone that wanted to hit this dude, obviously we're going to give the whites action first, of course, out of respect, right? but you have to be ready. And all of us that wanted to get him, all of us that were there when it happened, everyone transferred out up to Pelican Bay Shoe. I was the only one left that was there when Ron said what he said. And so I felt it's my responsibility, right? But I had already been by the time they were gonna run yard, I had already been back there like 9 months, I think, around 9 months. And like I said, everybody that came to the back with me from the incident on the yard, they were gone. And so the homie that had the block, had say, he tells me, Charlie, you need to go up to the shoe, man. Like, you've been here long enough, you know. And the thing was, when I initially caught my shoe, it was between the Southerners and the Bulldogs. And it happened on the basketball court. I wasn't playing basketball. Me and one other homie took off running over there and jumped in, right? Then in Ad Seg, somebody was doing a pegada. It went sideways. There I go. I jumped in on that one. And then, you know, it's been said, oh, Dubs got caught with weapons. Yeah. During that time there, I got caught with a weapon. Guess where the weapon was? In the chase, in between my cell and the neighbor's cell. Wasn't even in my cell. And the cops found it in there and decided to stick it on us. So that's one of the times. One of these days I might talk about the weapon, the times I got caught with weapons and how it happened. But anyways, so the homies were like, man, you keep catching shit. You know what I mean? Like, you're jumping in on other people's hotness. You know, you're doing a lot of stuff. Homies like, don't trip. We'll take care of Ron, you know. So when it came time for yard, we go out. And I tell the homies, hey, look, I know the homie doesn't want me to do it, but I'm down, eh? I'm down to whack this dude. I feel like I'm the only one that was there when it happened. And they're like, nah, we got it. And I remember the big dude. There was a big guy. We're gonna call him T. I don't remember what I referred to him as in the original, but I'm gonna go by his first initial, T. T was a big dude. He was from Logan Heights, San Diego, right? And so I go up to him and I tell him what I tell him. He's like, nah, don't trip. He goes, I'm just gonna knock him out. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, do me a favor. He goes, get at the woods and see if they're willing to handle it. And if they're not, he goes, I'm just going to knock him out. There's no point in us wasting soldados on this dude. He's a J-Cat. And I told him there's two people on earth you can't knock out. A crackhead and a J-Cat. He's a J-Cat. You're not going to knock him out. I go, look, we got straps out here. Let's just whack him. And one of my buddies from MS was like, hey, Holmes, I'll whack him. That dude used to always say, I don't know how to fight for shit, but I'll whack somebody or shoot him, right? So I want to whack him. The homie from MS wants to whack him. But T is like, nah, Holmes, we're not going to whack. He's not worth it. He's a J-Cat, Holmes. He doesn't even probably remember what he said. We're just going to, smash him if the woods don't do it. So I go over and I talk to his cellie. His cellie's name, I'm going to say his name. His cellie was Twist from Coco County. So I pulled him to the side because I knew him on B Yard. I said, hey, Twist, let me talk to you, man. He's like, what's up? Mind you, we went out to Yard once to let his guard down. This is the second time Yard came out. He's got to go, right? So I say, hey, Holmes, there's an issue with your cellie. And he's like, fuck. Man, what's up? What's going on? So I run him down on what happened. And Twist was caught up in a personal beef with somebody, another a wood that it wound up becoming a legend for the whites, right? But at this time, he's just doing his regular thing, right? And so Twist, I got moved on. And he's like, look, man, I would deal with it. But he goes, I I got to get back out on the yard and finish this thing that was started, right? And I think he said, hey, you want me to just handle it in the cell? And I said, no, because he's still going to come out to the yard with us. So all we'd be doing is giving him another day, right? And he's like, well, look, man. And there's only three whites on the yard. And so he's like, nah, you guys go ahead and do that, man. So I'm like, are you sure? He says, yeah. So I said, okay. So I walk over and I tell T, hey, Holmes, they're not going to do it. And he goes, all right. He got mad. And he's like, all right. He goes, I'm going to just knock him out. And again, I told him, I don't think that's a good idea, Holmes. You know what I mean? Like, we're not supposed to use our hands. This is another race, too. He was a C number. He'd been around since the 80s. He's like, man, I'm just going to handle this real quick. I said, all right, whatever, Holmes. So I go over and I post up and I tell Twist, come here, Holmes. And so I'm with him, right? In case he decides, you know what, I got to jump in, then, you know, me and him are going to get into it. And it wasn't, you know, and that's something you guys got to understand. It's not personal. It's business. But when something's going down, everybody has to play their part, right? And Twist knew why I told him, hey, kick it right here with me, you know, and there was nothing, no bad feelings. But T and two other dudes approach Ron, right? And Ron was like stretching out. I don't know what the hell he was doing. And boom, they start socking him up. And the other white dude that was next to him, he starts fighting back because he's thinking that the whites are getting moved on, right? And one of the homies just like grabbed him and like threw him to the side, like, hey, this don't have nothing to do with you. And he looked and like, oh shit, okay. And then he got away from what was happening and he sat down, right? So Ron has three dudes on him. And the gunner shoots the block gun. Boom. The gunner was a fish. Brand new guy. And Ron took off running towards the gate to get out of the yard, right? And that's where they cornered him. So if Ron is in the middle, there was one guy here, one guy in front of him, and another one here. The wall's right here. And they haven't pinned, he has his back against the wall and he's kind of like trying to ball up and they're socking him up. And the CO King that I spoke about before, tall white dude, man. He's standing literally, here's the fence right here, and Ron is right on the other side of the gate. Like he probably could have put his finger through the fence and touched the homie that was in between him and Ron, right? And I remember King looked up to the tower, and I remember his exact words. He said, these are Southerners. You're going to have to fire a whole lot more rounds in there, right? The guy reloaded the block gun. And I remember he stuck the gun out and aimed it. They're supposed to bounce the rounds off the ground into people. They never do. In that situation, they wouldn't have been able to because they're directly under the gun, right? But I remember he aimed and then he shot. And I watched the rounds hit the homies. They mainly just hit T. And I remember it hit T in the eye. And these things bounced. These weren't the wooden ones. These were the rubber ones, the black rubber ones. When it hit his eye, I don't know if I was tripping, but it sounded to me like it made a sound, right? The block dropped, hit him in his, like the tip of his shoe and rolled. And the homie took a step back. He grabbed the wall, put one hand on the wall, the other hand over his eye. And T is a big ass dude. And then he dropped to one knee. Boom. One of the homies that was on Ron looks over and sees that T had to take a knee, right? So he throws Ron towards the other homie. He squats down and he asks T, hey, are you all right? T goes like this. How bad is it? He's got blood coming out of his eye. And when he went like this, the whole part of his eye, when he did this, I didn't see any white. The brown part was the whole. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I remember I looked at Twist and I told him, my homeboy just lost his fucking eye. And that's what happened. They got Ron off the yard. Then they called T. Come on, we got to get you to medical. I don't know if you guys have ever had anything touch your eye. I don't know if you ever had an eyelash in your eye. The eyeball is a very sensitive spot. I couldn't believe this man didn't make a sound. He stood up, walked over, cuffed up, walked out. What had happened was the block hit him directly in his eyeball and the back of his eye exploded. He went out to the outside hospital. They had to clean everything up, take his eye out. He went to the infirmary. They gave him a glass eye. The homie asked, what happened after that? Nothing. That's another day in prison. I remember a northerner had got his eye shot out. Before that, probably 4 months before that incident, a northerner lost his eye in that same yard. And I'd say they were handling one of their own that time. But yeah, that's the reality of prison. And then, like I said, it was nothing personal. It was just business. Had there been other... Okay, so Stanley was the other white guy on the yard. I remember that guy. He was in my building, 7-block and B facility. Way out. He was like a non-affiliate. So he wasn't going to handle nothing. Ron can't handle himself. And Twist had a personal issue with somebody that was pretty serious. He had just gotten moved on. The cops didn't know who moved on him. He was fighting to get back to B facility. He actually wound up catching a body later. But this isn't one of those stories where people are going to say, oh, he's making the whites look bad. No, there was nobody there that could handle the situation. If anybody it would have been Twist. But again, he had a serious issue going on that he felt was the priority. There was no reason for the raza to be mad at any of the Woods. They hadn't said anything. It was just Ron. And it was Ron being a J-Cat. So angry at that woman, whatever that CO said or did, that he lost it. But in prison, you got to choose your words very wisely. That's why when people say, Dubs, you talk too slow. I always tell people, hey, you can tell who somebody's been around by the way they speak. If they're frivolous with their words, if they talk fast and just say whatever, they haven't been around people that are willing to take your life over a word. Ron chose the wrong words. Ron got an ass whooping. But had the homies allowed me or the homie from MS, or had one of them had a knife and used it on Ron, the homie would definitely still have his eyes, or both of his eyes, I should say. That's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.